In this video, I'm going to show you how to use markers in Tracktion. Now there's three different kinds of markers. There's the in and out markers. There's regular marker track markers that mark positions on the bars and beats on the timeline. And there's also absolute timecode markers that allow you to mark a specific time within the timeline. And you can use those markers to navigate and also as editing tools. So let's get started. So we can position the in and out markers by dragging these flags. This is the I flag. It has I on it. So you can grab it up here and position it. Or you can position the cursor anywhere you'd like to put it and hit the keyboard shortcut I. So it's I for the in marker and O for the out marker. If I position out here, then the O marker. You also notice that within the marker track, I can click within the marker track in order to position the cursor, or I can drag the cursor along the marker track. Once I get markers in there, then it works a little bit differently. But when the marker track's blank, it works like that. So then to navigate with those markers, the opening square bracket will take you to the in marker, like that. Can't really see it. I'm going to show you how to improve that later, but I'll play back and you'll see that it's there. And then the closing square bracket will jump the cursor to the out marker. Now the cursor and the in and the out marker lines there are the same color, but I like to change the playback cursor to a different color so it's easier to see, and that's easily done. In the Settings tab under General, you can go to the Show Color Scheme Editor window. So if we click that, and then in here find the play cursor, and what I like to do is make this a brighter red like that. We'll turn the blue aspect of it off so it's not so purpley, and then with it a brighter red, somewhere in here, works pretty well. Then if we go back there, you'll easily be able to see the difference between the cursor and the in and the out marker. Now another way to set the in and out markers is to set them over a selection. So if you select one or more clips like this and then use the keyboard shortcut A, that will set the in and out markers over that particular range. Once you've got them set, you can also zoom to the in and out markers with the F7 key, at least the way the alternative mapping's set up. So it's a really kind of a nice way to work. Now, of course, the same in and out markers are used for the loop. If we turn the loop on, we'll loop playback between those markers, and it's also used for punch. So if we turn on punch, which is essentially auto punch, then we can set up to automatically punch in recording between the in and the out markers. Now let's take a closer look at the marker track itself. You can open and close the marker track with this button right here, and you can cycle through the marker track modes using F10. Normally we have the bars and beats mode. If we keep hitting F10, it will turn off the marker track. It'll show the marker track with just bars and beats, or it'll show the marker track with both the bars and beats and the time code. So we're going to put it back here. Now if I want to add a marker to that track, there's a few ways to do it. So the first way is to grab this clip object. So if we drag it and put it into the marker track, then we can add either a bars and beats or a time code marker. We'll add a bars and beats marker. And then the details appear down here. You can see that's marker number 1. We can assign it a different number if we want, and we can put in a name for that marker. So if we wanted to call that something like verse 1, then we just label it verse 1. We could also set the length right here. Right now it's set to 1 bar, but if I want to make it longer, I could set it to something like 8 bars and make it a little bit longer. I'll just zoom in a little bit. Another way to make it longer is to grab out in this area here on this triangle, and then you can stretch it out. You can also see that it adapts to the snap setting. Since we have snap turned on, you'll see that it's snapping to the increments along the timeline. It also behaves a lot like other clips. We could increase the size of this track by dragging here. We can also copy it or duplicate it. If I use the D command, I can duplicate it like this. And it also allows you to change the colors. So if you have multiple clips like this, you could maybe make all your verses one color and your chorus is another color. I'm just going to change this to say chorus. And you can see now I have a verse and a chorus. Now once you've got marker clips in like this, you can navigate to them by hitting a number and then the enter key. So if I hit number 1, you'll see I can now navigate and put the cursor to number 1. You'll see briefly, after you hit the number, you've got a couple of seconds to hit enter in order to position it. So I'm going to hit 2 and then enter, and you'll see the cursor jump to the second clip. like that. And that allows you to do those jumps while you're playing back a song. So let me just demonstrate that. Now, what also happens, and it happened here, is that if you hit a number that doesn't exist, then you actually put that number in. I hit 22, and I wound up putting in marker 22. Another way to enter markers is during playback is just hit enter. It will just put in the next numbered marker. So I'll do playback, and I'll just hit enter as we go along and add a couple of markers. Once you've got them in here, if they're not looking quite the way you want, you can go in here and grab the triangle and stretch them out like that. So as we play along here, for some reason we want to add marker 10, then we would just put in the number 10 and hit enter. If the marker doesn't exist, it will put it in. If the marker does exist, it will jump to it. So let me demonstrate that with marker number 10. So that way I was able to put in marker number 10. Now there's another way to organize and use these markers, and that's in the browser. So if you open the browser over here on the left side and go to the markers tab, and this marker list allows you to also edit the markers or jump to them while you're playing back. So once you've got all the markers in, you can go down here to the properties, click on any marker in the properties, and then you can change the name of it right here, such as bridge for that marker. And then on playback, you can jump to those markers. With a double click. You'll see that a single click selects the marker, and then a double click will jump the cursor to that position. So I'll double click, it jumps it to the bridge. If I click right here, you'll see it selects that. That gives you the option if you want to set the in and out points around that marker, then you can just hit A because it's selected, and that will set the in and out points around there. And if you made a multiple selection, then you could hit A, and now you've got your loop immediately set up over this range. What if you want to put a marker in a very specific spot for some sort of a cue, maybe related to video, or if you had an explosion or an effect or something on your track and it happens at a certain time offset, then use F10 to open up the timecode marker, and then you can add markers by dragging the blank clip over like this. Or you could just go over here on the markers tab and then add an absolute timecode marker, and it puts it in right there. You can adjust the position of it and the naming, the color right here. You can also change a marker from one type to the other by dragging back and forth on the timeline. Nudge works, so if you hold shift and use the down arrow, that you can nudge them up and down and switch them back and forth between the different kinds. Or you can select a marker and then go into the properties and change it with the type. That is an overview of pretty much all the different kinds of ways you can use markers within Traction. Thanks for watching.